I want to talk to you just a second on insurance. I believe in it. I have a lot of it. That is, if you do. But I will tell you that a lot of people are outliving their insurance. What do I mean by that? When people are young, they buy term insurance because they can get a lot of it for very little. When they get older, it becomes unaffordable, so they convert it to whole life. They call it whole life because we are told it protects you for your whole life, and you are basically paying for your whole life. Whole life insurance allows you to build equity in your policy, although it takes about 20 years to do it. The problem is, as people get older, their body starts to break down. Let me ask you this. Have you ever had a car where you paid it off and it started falling apart? Well, that's kind of what happens with our body. You get older and you start needing medicine to regulate your blood, liver, heart, stomach, and on and on and on. At the same time, your income has gone down. So we find that people don't want to burden their families with these issues, so they borrow from the equity of their policies to pay the medical bills, and at the time of death, they don't have the money to do a burial. Or let's say something happens, whether it's age, health, dementia, and the person has to go into a nursing home. A low-level nursing home is $5,000 a month. That's just a low-level nursing home. Now, the government will pay that, but they won't do that when you have equities sitting in policies. They will make you do a spend down. They won't allow you to have your cake and eat it too. So even though a person has been responsible their entire lives, they get to end of life and they cannot do a burial. Most people think all they can do is a final expense insurance, but that's not the case. Even though we provide final expense policies, it is not the best for our families. One of the reasons a funeral cost doubles every 8 to 10 years. Final expense. Final expense policies do not lock in the price of a funeral. So you might have a policy for $5,000 or $10,000, but because you keep on living, your funeral might end up being $20,000 or $30,000. Also, your family will still have to go in on the worst day of their lives and make the most difficult decision of their lives. That's the thing we are trying to avoid. So, one of the best things a family can do is get a pre-need funeral plan. We work with different funeral homes in the area. If you get a funeral plan, for example with XYZ Funeral Home, put the funeral home that you desire to use, you are dealing with a very established funeral home in the community that has worked in this community for decades. It freezes the cost of your funeral. If funeral costs go up, you don't have to pay the difference. Everything is taken care of in advance. The family does not have to come in and start from scratch as it relates to your funeral arrangements. In most cases, even after the first installment, if something happens to you, your entire funeral is paid for. The family does not have to pay off the balance. With these plans, the government cannot touch them. They are in a protected status and cannot be considered as an asset. This funeral home has a long history and is not going to go out of business. But if it did, in the state of Texas, the law requires that your payments be put in a state-regulated trust. This means your money is protected, and the funeral home only gets the funds when you pass. You don't pay for this for the rest of your life. You pay it off and own it. Also, this protection protects your children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren who are under 18 free of charge, meaning if anything were to happen to them, their funeral would be taken care of. We even provide protection for pets. If you have to take your pet to the vet to be put down, we will pay up to $150 toward that expense. Finally, if something happens to you in the form of an accident, your funeral will be taken care of, but the cash amount of the funeral will be paid in cash to the family. You will get both the cash and the funeral. Never Again Legacy Sheet. Finally, you want to ask them, if you don't mind, let me show you what is included in your plan and how much your plan will be. If you noticed, I said, let me show you what's going to be in your plan. I am assuming the sale. You must assume the sale. Let me explain what is going to be in your plan and how much your plan will be. Keep in mind that each funeral home has its own price list. This is called a general price list. This general price list lists all the prices of the funeral home. There is also a casket price list and an outer burial container price list. This is the protective casing caskets are placed in to protect them, outer burial containers. You will present a sheet that will show everything that comes in their plan. You will go down the list on the sheet and explain what's in their plan. You will say, okay, your plan will include the basic services of the funeral home and staff. This includes everything that our staff will have to do to take care of you. It includes embalming. It includes cosmetology and dressing. That means making you look good. It includes the visitation or wake, transfer to the funeral home, hearse, funeral service, programs, flowers, limousine, casket, registry book, freeze the price of your funeral. It also provides free protection of children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. Agents, I need you to understand that depending on the funeral home you use, some of the sheets will have more or less services on your presentation sheet. You may have police escorts, death certificates, memorial DVDs, obituaries, and thank you cards on your sheet. Those may not be provided by a particular funeral home. It will depend on the funeral home and the services offered that will determine what the prices will be. However, as it relates to your presentation, just go down the sheet and let them know what is included in their plan. When telling them what their monthly payment is, I like to use the word installments. When I'm talking about a contract, I like to use the word agreements. People like agreements. They don't like contracts. People like installments. They don't like payments. To get their monthly installment amount, use your Freedom Life payment app that you can get from your app store. Once you download the app, call 800-574-7117 and ask for the marketing department. Tell them that you will need a key to activate your payment app. Talk to your Freedom Life representative as it relates to how to use the app. It's very simple to use. You can only get an activation key if you've been appointed. Now, once you figure out their installment, you should give them at least 2 price points. You can give them a price point for what their payment would be for a 120-month installment and a 96-month installment. There are other options if they want them. Once they choose their installment, you want to write up the plan. I've given you a lot of information here today. Keep in mind that your presentation does not have to be perfect. You do not have to learn this presentation word for word. This is just a guide to help you understand the process of serving a family. You need to understand the framework so you can go and present. Don't try to learn it word for word. Also, don't wait to get out in the field. Go out there and make it happen. One final thing before we conclude. I want to speak briefly on handling objections. One of the things we never do is argue with a customer. If a customer says they want to think about it, this is not an opportunity for you to attack the customer. You never want to say, "What is there to think about? Don't you know you're going to die? I thought you said you wanted to protect your family." We never, never, never attack a family. Our job is always to honor the family. So, no matter what a person says, you are always going to say, "Not a problem." If they say, "I want to cut my arm off right now and run around the room," your response is going to be, "Not a problem." If they say they want to think about it, you say, "Not a problem." If they say they want to talk to a family member, you say, "Not a problem." Are you starting to catch on? Here's the reason we do this. When they state an objection, we want to let them know that their objection makes sense. It's not unreasonable. So if a person says, "I want to think about it," your response is going to be, "Not a problem." You're also going to say, "You know what? A lot of my families like to think about it. As a matter of fact, I like to think about things too, so that makes perfect sense." What you have just done is validated them and made them feel comfortable, and you have taken them off of the defensive. You want to remain calm on the outside and, if possible, calm on the inside. I know sometimes we get nervous because we want the sale, but remain calm. Ask them, "You want to think about it? Great. How long do you think you want to think about it? A day? 2 days? 3 days?" Let them answer. Whatever they say, you say, "Not a problem." You then ask them, "Would it be helpful for you to have all the information I talked about today so that as you review it, you can have all of the information to go over, the agreement, the memorial planning guide, the letter of instruction, etc.? They will say, "Oh yes, that would be helpful." Okay, let's fill everything out on the agreement. Start filling it out. Also, let them know you are going to leave the book with them. Most of the time, they will start filling it out. If they say, "Why am I going to fill this out if I'm going to think about it?" You will say, "Oh, you're filling it out so you can have the completed information. What we are going to do is go ahead and set you up so you don't miss out on the special that we're running right now. But no worries, we're not going to give you the 1 or 2, 3 days you wanted to review. We're going to give you a 10-day free look period. That means for any reason at all, if you decide this is not for you, you don't pay a dime, and we act like this never happened. If you call and say, 'Jesus is coming back and you don't need this,' we will act like it never happened. However, for the next 10 days, while you're deciding, you and your extended family will be protected, and if something happens, your funeral services will be covered." Does that make sense? Great, okay. Then ask them, what day of the month would you like your payment to happen? Write that in the appropriate box and move on. You may want to review our training on writing up an agreement with a family. If they still say, "I want to think about it before I do anything," you say, "Not a problem." They may really like you and are embarrassed to say it costs too much for their budget. So here is your next rebuttal. "You know why I'm doing this? I really want to help you. I realize that there are 4 reasons why most people don't go ahead and take care of this. The first reason is they don't like the agent. Is it me? Do you not like me? I can get someone else to come in and talk to you about this." They will laugh and it'll break the ice. They will tell you, "No, it's not you." You say, "Oh, okay, you had me worried." The next thing is, they don't think they will use it. Do you think you won't use it? Do you feel like the Lord's coming back and you won't need it? They will laugh and say, "Oh yes, I'm going to use it." Is it the funeral? You don't like the fact that the funeral home's been in business for decades and your money is protected by the state? If it's not any of that, then the last thing I found is it the money? Is the price point not comfortable for you? Does it need to be a little bit more comfortable? If I can make it more comfortable for you, would that be helpful? In that case, what you will need to do is take some of the items off, like limousines, death certificates, police escorts, etc., and give them a basic service. Let them know they can always upgrade their plan later, but they will have the major parts of their plan taken care of. Give them a new quote and ask them, is that better for them? When they say yes, move on and conclude your business. If you have not already done so, go to the Freedom Life portal and print out this presentation. Go over it and practice it. There are also presentation bullets that you can use when presenting to your families. Once you learn this presentation, you're going to have so much fun when dealing with families. Make sure to watch the tutorial on how to fill out an agreement. Don't wait to get out into the field. Get out there and make it happen. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be willing. It's been great working with you today, and I look forward to hearing about the wonderful stories of the families that you've helped. Until next time, God bless.